Good evening, my little creatures of the night. Mr. Wendigo back again, and boy, have I got a tale that'll make you fold under pressure tonight. Let's see what the woods have whispered to me this time. Ah yes, here we are. The Beartooth Mountains, Montana and Wyoming border country. High, mean, and sharp as broken teeth. The kind of peaks that don't sing, or roll, or groan. They just watch and wait. The Crow people, the Northern Cheyenne, the Shoshone, they've all got names for what lives up there in the thin places. The Boxpocky, spirits pressed flat by the weight of the world, existing in creases and folds that human eyes can barely see, hungry for dimension, hungry for flesh, hungry to teach you how to bend. Their elders warn, never follow tracks that double, never walk where something weightless has stepped, never climb during the folding moons, when the mountains crease and the spaces between grow thin. But search and rescue volunteer Lilly-Anne Holt and her team, they didn't know about the warnings, or maybe they just thought they were tougher than folklore. Either way, when an ultrarunner went missing at mile marker 12, they climbed anyway, into a storm that made no sound, following prints that doubled as they walked, answering radios that spoke in their own voices. Some mountains take your life. The Beartooths, they take your shape. This is your late night creature feature. And trust me, kiddies, this one's going to flatten you. Before we begin, I'm curious, where are you listening from tonight? Alone in your room? Driving through empty roads? Walking through the woods? Drop a comment and let me know. I like knowing who's out there in the dark with me, especially those of you in the mountains, those of you who've seen tracks you can't explain, those of you who've heard your own voice on the radio when you know you didn't speak. Yeah, I see you. Now then, let's climb into the Beartooths and see what happens when you follow footprints that shouldn't exist. Spoiler alert, you become part of the pattern. You become part of the fold. You become thin. The Switchback Caller, a true mountain horror. Chapter 1, Missing at mile 12. I've been up here enough times to know the Beartooths aren't generous. They're sharp, thin-aired, and mean. They don't sing like the Smokies or roll like the Ozarks. They don't even groan like the Rockies when the wind tears at them. The Beartooths just watch. Jagged switchbacks, vertical snowfields, lakes black as a pupil. And today, climbing the first ridge out of the trailhead, it felt like every tree, every stone, every pocket of cold air had shut its mouth. Wind pushed the branches, but no sound came, like a film reel muted, like the mountain was holding its breath. I adjusted my pack straps and checked the radio clipped to my vest. The weight felt familiar, comforting, even. 42 pounds of gear I could navigate in my sleep. Lilly-Anne, trail in sight, steady pace. 3 voices crackled back through the static, confirming positions. Hondo Locklear trailed me by 10 feet, snowshoes crunching in perfect rhythm, 26 years old. Dark eyes that never quite stopped searching the tree line. He was green, only a few months in SAR, but eager in a way that made me nervous. That jittering focus, like someone who still believed every mission would end in a hug and a survivor photo, the kind of hope that got you sloppy. I knew why he'd joined. Everyone on the team knew. His sister Sarah had vanished 3 years back, mile marker 9 on the northern approach. They'd searched for 2 weeks. Found her pack, her water bottle, 1 boot. Never found her. Hondo had moved to Montana 6 months later, joined SAR, and spent every spare hour studying maps of the Beartooths, looking for patterns, looking for answers, looking for his sister. Behind him, Marcus Reeve and Tasha Okonkwo brought up the rear. Marcus was solid, 40-something, been doing mountain rescue since before I was born. Thick gray beard, gone mostly silver, patient eyes, rough hands that had pulled more people off mountains than most folks would meet in a lifetime. The kind of guy who could splint a femur fracture in a blizzard and crack jokes while doing it. He had a daughter, Diane, 6 years old, birthday in 3 days. He'd shown me the card he'd bought her that morning, purple unicorn on the front. Love you to the mountains and back, it said inside. Tasha was newer but competent, ex-Army medic, 31, moved to Montana 2 years back for the quiet after 2 tours in Afghanistan left her needing space and sky. She had that steady calm that came from seeing worse things than mountains could throw at you, dealt with IEDs and firefights and carrying wounded through hostile territory. Figured snow and silence would be easy after that. Or so she thought. I'd been doing this for 8 years, joined after my brother died in a climbing accident in the Wind River Range. Thought maybe if I learned the mountains, understood them, I could keep other families from getting the call mine got. That knock on the door, that apologetic voice, "We're sorry for your loss." The team was good, experienced enough to know when to push and when to pull back, young enough to still have the legs for these climbs. "Copy," Hondo said, voice crackling in my ear even though I could hear him breathing just behind me. His tone had that southern drag, Carolina roots, though his eyes belonged somewhere older, darker. He was looking for the ultrarunner, same as me. Except I knew in his marrow, he was also looking for his sister, disappeared 3 years back in the very same range, never found. The call had come in just after dawn. I'd been drinking coffee, standing at my kitchen window, watching the peaks turn pink with sunrise. Peaceful morning. Then my phone lit up. 32-year-old male, last seen at mile 12 marker. Name, David Chen, software engineer from Seattle. First time in the Beartooths. Experienced trail runner, but new to winter conditions, new to altitude this extreme. Weather had been clear when he'd started. He'd texted his wife a trail selfie at 9:30 a.m. Blue sky, smile, brand new orange windbreaker he'd bought special for the trip. The text read, "Mile 12, feeling strong, love you." Then nothing. His wife waited until noon, called again at 2. By 4, she'd contacted Park Service. By 5, we were gearing up. It happens up here more than people like to admit. The Beartooths don't care about your trail running medals or your expensive gear. They don't care if you've got a wife waiting or kids at home or dreams you haven't lived yet. The mountains take what they want. Marcus keyed his radio. "Anyone else notice how quiet it is?" "Wine's weird up here," Tasha said, but her voice had an edge. She felt it too. By the time we crested the first switchback, the tracks were there. Boot prints, crisp, recent, heading higher. I dropped to a knee, brushing snow away with a glove. The impressions were deep, an ultrarunner's trail shoe with narrow tread, but inside each print, pressed almost delicately, was another mark. A bare foot. No weight to it, not shallow like a child's, just light, the way paper pressed into snow might leave a memory of itself. "Jesus," Hondo muttered, crouching beside me. He wasn't alone. "No," I said, "not the way you mean." Marcus and Tasha caught up, breathing hard. Marcus leaned over my shoulder, studying the prints. His face went still. "That's not right." "No shit," Tasha said. We followed. The doubled prints went on for a quarter mile, every step nested inside another, the runner breaking trail, something else stepping exactly where he stepped, like a shadow in 3 dimensions. The radios hissed. I froze, hand on the knob. From the static, my own voice, "We'll head left at the switchback." But I hadn't spoken yet. I swallowed hard. Ahead, the trail forked left. Hondo turned pale under his hood. "Did you—" "Keep moving," I cut in, because stopping was worse. Stopping meant the mountain knew it had you. Marcus and Tasha exchanged a glance but said nothing. Marcus touched the small cross hanging from his pack strap. Old habit, Catholic kid from Boston turned mountain man. He didn't talk about faith much, but I'd seen him pray before bad recoveries. We angled left, snow rising to mid-shin, the grade steepening, the trees thinned, giving way to an overlook where the valley fell away like a snapped spine. That's where we found him, The ultrarunner. He'd been folded. His body was bent backward over a granite boulder, spine cracked like a stick of chalk. His ribs jutted outward, pale and splintered, like broken branches shoved through skin. His face was calm, almost asleep, but his eyes had bled, not from sockets, but from the pupils themselves. Black rivulets trickled down his cheeks, staining the snow below with dark streaks, seeping outward like ink spilled across paper. His skin where he bent was stretched paper-thin, ironed flat, no wrinkles left. Behind me, Tasha gagged. Marcus went white, one hand braced against a tree. Hondo just stared, breathing shallow. I stood there, stomach tight, waiting for the mountain to give me permission to breathe. "He looks placed," Hondo whispered. He was right. The runner hadn't fallen. He hadn't been thrown. He'd been arranged, like someone had folded a shirt wrong and decided to display it anyway. My radio hissed again. This time it wasn't my voice. It was Hondo's. Flat, unsteady. "It's her, Lilly-Anne. My sister's just ahead." But Hondo was right behind me. I turned and saw him, eyes wide, lips bloodless. His radio wasn't keyed. I put a hand on his shoulder. "It wants you rattled. Don't listen." He stared at me like a man watching his own obituary written line by line. Marcus cleared his throat, forcing himself into SAR protocol. "We need to mark the location. Call it in. Get a recovery team up here." In this, Tasha gestured at the sky. Storm clouds stacked on the far ridge, fat-bellied and heavy. "We've got maybe 2 hours before that hits." "Then we work fast," I said. We marked the body's GPS coordinates, took photos for the report. Marcus tried to cover the runner's face with his jacket, but the fabric wouldn't lay flat. It kept sliding off like the body was too smooth, too wrong. "Something killed him," Tasha said quietly. She crouched next to the body, medic's instinct overriding revulsion. But I don't know what. No animal does this. No fall does this. "Then what?" Marcus asked. She looked up at him, dark eyes shadowed. "Nothing I've ever seen." The tracks continued upslope, one heavy, one light, perfect overlaps. But the farther we looked, the fainter the runners became, until all that remained were those delicate, weightless steps pressing the snow in neat rows. Like the mountain had eaten him, and only the echo kept going. "We push higher," I said. "Standard search pattern, rope in pairs." Marcus nodded. "Tasha, you're with me. Hondo, stay on Lilly-Anne." Hondo clipped into my line, hands shaking. The rope between us felt like the only real thing left. By the time the light thinned and the sky bruised over, my teeth ached from clenching. The silence was worse than any windstorm, worse than wolves howling or cougars screaming. Silence meant the mountain was making room. We'd have to dig in soon. The storm would come down. But already, on that first ridge, I knew the Beartooths weren't just holding their breath. They were waiting to exhale. The ridge narrowed, a spine of rock and wind-scoured snow. My snowshoes scraped bare stone every few steps. Behind me, Hondo's breath rasped hard in the radio and just as loud in the still air. 20 feet back, Marcus and Tasha climbed in tandem, their rope taut between them. "Hold pace," I told everyone, more for myself than them. But the prints didn't hold pace. The doubled tracks ahead had started to multiply, at first just faint feathering at the edges of the runner's prints. Then whole extra steps, side by side, as if something had tried the shape of his stride, gotten it wrong, and corrected. Like practicing handwriting until the loops looked natural. Marcus called up from behind. "Anyone else seeing this?" "Yeah," I said. "What the hell makes tracks like that?" I didn't answer because I didn't have one that wouldn't sound insane. We kept climbing. The air thinned, cold burning my lungs. Sweat froze in my base layers. My thighs screamed with every step, but stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant seeing that folded man again, bent wrong, eyes bleeding black. I kept my eyes forward, but my skin prickled between my shoulder blades. That prickling grew until I couldn't help it. I turned. The slope behind us was clean. 4 sets of tracks. Mine, Hondo's, Marcus's, Tasha's. But when I blinked, there was a 5th line for half a heartbeat. Shallow, light, so faint it could have been a trick of the wind, then gone. Tasha saw me staring. What? Nothing, I lied. We reached another switchback, the kind that doubled on itself with a dizzying drop at the curve. Rock teeth jutted up, black against the dying light. The radios hissed. All 4 of us froze. Stop here, my voice, flat, robbed of breath. We stood motionless. Marcus touched his radio dial, but the squelch light wasn't lit. None of ours were transmitting. Lily, Hondo whispered, it's not. Then the static burped again. A woman's voice. Young, frightened. Hondo, step down, just step down. His sister. The switchback edge waited a yard away, dropped sheer into blue dusk. Hondo lurched toward it before I slammed my hand into his chest, hard enough to rattle his pack straps. Eyes on me. That was her, he choked out. That was Sarah. It wasn't. You don't know. I know it wants you dead, I said, and I know you're not giving it what it wants. Marcus hauled himself up beside us, breathing hard. What the fuck was that? The mountain, Tasha said quietly. She'd gone very still, eyes scanning the ridge above. It's talking. Mountains don't talk, Marcus said, but his voice had no conviction. This one does. We pushed on, but the mood had shifted. Fear had teeth now. It rode in our packs, sat on our shoulders, breathed in our ears. The sun bled itself thin against the horizon, streaking the snow pink. The storm line stacked closer, swallowing the far peaks. 1/2 mile more, I said. Then we dig in. That's when Marcus stopped. Hold. We turned. He was staring upslope, head tilted like he was listening to something we couldn't hear. Marcus, Tasha called. He didn't answer, just pointed. 30 feet up, something dark hung in the pines. At first I thought it was a bear cache. Hunters sometimes strung up kills to keep them from scavengers, but the shape was wrong, too long, too angular. We scrambled toward it, hearts tripping. As we got closer, the smell hit. Copper, meat, bowel. Marcus reached it first. He looked up, then immediately looked away, one hand over his mouth. Hanging from a pine branch, strung up by its own intestines, was a body. Field-dressed, like a deer, like an elk. The torso had been opened from sternum to pelvis, one long, clean incision. The rib cage had been spread wide, ribs bent outward like the pages of a book left open. Inside was nothing, empty. Every organ removed, heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, stomach, intestines, all gone. Just the hollow cavity of the thorax, the curved bones of the ribs, the pale knobs of vertebrae visible at the back. The cuts were clean, surgical. Someone, something had known exactly where to slice, had known anatomy, had taken time with this. The sternum had been split lengthwise with precision, the pelvis cracked open, the hip joints dislocated to spread the legs at unnatural angles. Arms folded back and tied behind the torso with strips of the victim's own skin, braided like rope. The face was intact, frozen in a scream, eyes wide, mouth open. A rictus of pure terror preserved by cold. I recognized the jacket, the neon vest, the SAR patch on the shoulder. Vickers, Paul Vickers, 43 years old, disappeared last May during a search for a missing hiker. We'd looked for him for 10 days, found nothing. Assumed he'd fallen, been buried by a slide, washed away in snowmelt. He'd been here the whole time, hanging. Waiting. Marcus backed away, boots sliding in the snow, one hand over his mouth. We need to leave. We need to leave right now. Something warm hit my forehead. I wiped it with my glove. My fingers came away red. Blood, fresh, still warm. I looked up slowly, dread building in my chest like pressure. Above us, hanging from branches at different heights, were more bodies. 5, 6, 7. I stopped counting. All field-dressed, all gutted, all folded. Some hung upside down, intestines looped over branches like grotesque Christmas garland. Some hung right side up, arms spread like scarecrows. Some were bent at angles that shouldn't be possible, spines curved backward, heads touching heels. The oldest ones were mummified by cold and time, skin dried to leather, eyes sunk into dark pits, lips pulled back from teeth in permanent grins. They'd been here for years, maybe decades. The newest ones were fresh, blood still dripping from empty cavities. Tap, 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 steady as a metronome, pooling dark circles in the snow below. One of them wore a wedding ring. I could see it glinting on a finger, the hand folded carefully, almost reverently, against the chest cavity. Another wore a necklace with a small silver cross. It hung inside the empty rib cage, swaying slightly in wind that shouldn't exist. The intestines used as rope were knotted with care, decorative almost, like someone had practiced, like this was art. The smell finally registered, copper and meat and bowel and something else, something sweet and chemical, like formaldehyde, like preservation. Tasha's breathing went ragged. Oh, God. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, God. Oh, God. Marcus grabbed her arm. Don't look. Don't look at them. But we all looked. Couldn't help it. The bodies were everywhere. A forest of the dead, hanging like fruit from twisted pines. The radio crackled. Multiple voices now, layered, overlapping. We're close. That was me. Just ahead. That was Hondo. Almost there. That was Marcus. Turn back. That was Tasha, and her voice was shaking. We stood frozen, listening to ourselves speak, but not from the radios, from above, from the bodies. The mouths moved, slowly, stiffly, jaws creaking, frozen lips cracking, tongues blackened and swollen. Step closer. The voices came from dead throats, from empty chests, from gutted frames that shouldn't be able to speak. Step closer. All of them, every body, every hanging corpse, speaking in unison, speaking in our voices. Step closer. Hondo grabbed my arm. Lily, we run, now. For once, I didn't argue. We ran. Chapter 2. The Trench. We didn't make it far. The storm hit like a wall. One moment we were scrambling downslope, the next the world vanished into white. Visibility dropped to 5 feet. Wind that should have howled came as a shove, silent and mean. Trench, I screamed over the non-wind. We dig in or we die. Marcus and Tasha were already scouting for a lee side. Marcus found it, a fat boulder with a drift piled against the downwind face. We converged, dropped packs, started digging. The work kept us from thinking about the bodies, about the blood, about the radio speaking in our voices. Hondo and I cut the main slot while Marcus and Tasha stamped a platform. We moved fast, efficient, muscle memory taking over. Dig, toss, stamp, stack, dig, toss, stamp, stack. The drift was layered, old snow, new snow, a thin crust of ice that made a sound like tearing paper when my blade broke it. That sound, always that sound. We roofed it with 2 tarps lashed together, anchored the corners with buried lines, stacked blocks windward. It wasn't pretty, but it'd keep us alive. For now, the 4 of us crammed into the trench, backs against the boulder, knees drawn up. It was tight, shoulders touching, breath fogging in the small space. Radio check, I said. because routine was a handhold. Team 1, 4 souls, sheltering at. My voice finished in my ear before I said the words, sheltering at. Tasha's hands clenched into fists. Make it stop. Can't, I said. Just don't listen. Marcus pulled out a protein bar, hand shaking so bad he could barely tear the wrapper. Those bodies. That was Vickers. I know it was Vickers. He went missing last spring. And the others? Tasha asked. Other searches, other years. His voice cracked. How long has this thing been killing? Long enough to get good at it, Hondo said quietly. We ate in silence. 2 bites of bar, 1 swallow from bottles we'd kept inside our jackets so they wouldn't freeze. The water tasted like tin and old snow. Marcus kept glancing at the tarp above us. My daughter's 6th birthday's in 3 days. I promised her I'd be home. You will be, Tasha said, but it sounded like a lie. My sister said that too, Hondo whispered. Last thing she told me, I'll be home for dinner. Then the mountain took her. Silence settled heavy. I checked my watch. 6:15 p.m. We had maybe 12 hours until first light. 12 hours in this hole while something folded people in the trees above us. We take shifts, I said. 2 awake, 2 rest, 30-minute rotations. No one goes outside alone. No one follows the radio voices. What if it's a real call? Marcus asked. Then they'll call twice, I said, and we'll know by the squelch light. It was a thin rule, but thin rules were better than no rules. The storm thickened. Snow piled against the tarp until it bowed inward, heavy. Our breath made crystals that fell when we shifted. The world outside became a roar that made no sound, a violence that arrived as pressure. Marcus took first watch with Tasha. Hondo and I tried to sleep. Tried. I closed my eyes and saw the runner, bent backward, saw the field-dressed bodies swaying in the pines, saw those doubled footprints, light as breath, stepping exactly where we stepped. When I opened my eyes, Hondo was staring at me. You ever see anything like this? He asked. No. You think we're getting out? I wanted to lie, wanted to say, of course, we're professionals, we've trained for this, but the truth sat between us like a stone. I don't know. He nodded, looked at his gloves. Sarah used to say the mountains, remember? She grew up near Cherokee land, learned stories from her grandmother. Said there were places the land folded wrong, places where things that shouldn't be could slip through. You believe that? Didn't used to. He met my eyes. Do now. The radio hissed. Tasha's voice, young and frightened. Marcus, I see them. They're coming down. But Tasha was sitting right there, lips pressed tight, eyes wide. Marcus grabbed his radio, checked the squelch. Dark. He looked at Tasha. She shook her head. From outside, faint through the storm, footsteps. 1, 2, pause. 1, 2. Our rhythm, our exact cadence. Something was circling the trench. We sat frozen, barely breathing, listening to ourselves walk around our shelter. The footsteps stopped at the edge of the tarp. The fabric bulged inward, not from wind, from something pressing. The bulge moved slowly down the length of the tarp, a hand dragging across fabric, feeling for the seam. Then it stopped. The radio crackled again. This time it was a voice I didn't recognize. Old, tired, speaking a language I almost understood but didn't. Marcus went rigid. That's Crow. That's the Crow language. You speak it? No, but I know what it sounds like. Worked with tribal SAR out of lodge grass for years. He listened, face pale. It's saying something about paper, about folding, about, he swallowed, about skin that bends. The voice stopped. The pressure against the tarp released. We waited. 30 seconds, a minute, 5. Nothing. It's gone, Tasha whispered. No, I said, it's waiting. We huddled there, 4 bodies pressed together, listening to the storm tear paper in the dark. Chapter 3. The Long Night. Midnight came and went. Time moved wrong in the trench, stretched thin in some places, folded double in others. My watch said 1:30 a.m., but it felt like we'd been there for days. Marcus and I took the next shift while Hondo and Tasha tried to sleep. They didn't. I could tell by their breathing. Too shallow, too quick. Marcus kept touching his cross. His lips moved in silent prayer. After a while, he stopped and just sat there, staring at nothing. "You okay?" I asked. He laughed, bitter. "My kid asked me why I do this. SAR. I told her it's because people need help. Because mountains take people and someone has to bring them home." He looked at me, eyes red. "But what brings us home?" "We do," I said. "We bring each other." "You really believe that?" Before I could answer, Tasha jerked upright. "Did you hear that?" We listened. At first, nothing. Then, faint through the storm, singing. A child's voice, thin and sweet, singing something that might have been a lullaby if the tune wasn't wrong. Too many notes, bending in places human voices didn't bend. Hondo's face drained of color. "That's Sarah. That's my sister's voice." The singing grew louder, closer. It was coming from inside the trench. We swept our headlamps across the space. 4 bodies, 4 beams, nothing else. But the singing continued, emanating from the snow beneath us. The floor creased. Just a little, a fold in the drift, appearing between Tasha's boots. The snow dimpled, pressed down by invisible weight. "Get up," I hissed. "Everyone up, now." We scrambled to our feet, backs against the boulder. The fold deepened, a crease spreading across the trench floor like a crack in ice. The singing stopped. From the crease, something thin and dark unfolded. A hand, flattened, palm to fingers, pressed smooth. It lay there on the snow, twitching slightly, as if testing its shape. Then it grabbed Tasha's ankle. She screamed, a sound I'd never heard from her, not even in stories about Afghanistan. Pure animal terror. Her leg folded backward at the knee with a wet crack. Not a break, a fold. The joint bent 180 degrees, patella shattering, ligaments snapping like overstretched rubber bands. Bone splinters punched through skin, white shards glistening in the headlamp glow. She fell hard, hands clawing at the snow, fingers digging trenches. Marcus lunged, grabbed her arms, started hauling. "Help me!" Hondo and I seized her jacket, pulled with everything we had. The rope between us went taut, burning through gloves. But her leg kept folding. The break traveled up her femur, bone compressing, marrow squeezing out like toothpaste. Her shin bent next, then her ankle. Her boot twisted 180, heel where toes should be, laces tightening until they cut through leather. We pulled harder, her hip dislocated with a pop like a gunshot, ball joint tearing free of socket. Her pelvis cracked, a sound like stepping on a frozen lake. Hairline fractures spiderwebbed across bone. Then her spine went. Vertebrae separated one by one, L5, L4, L3, each disc compressing, each bone shifting, folding her torso forward. Her chest met her thighs, ribs breaking inward, sternum cracking, puncturing lungs. Blood erupted from her mouth, black and thick. The smell hit me, copper and bowel and something else, something chemical, like burned plastic. Her eyes bulged, pressure building behind them, capillaries burst, red flooding the whites. She tried to scream again, but her lungs had flattened, diaphragm crushed, vocal cords compressed. All that came out was a thin wheeze, like air escaping a punctured tire, a sound that wasn't human anymore. Her face stayed aware. That was the worst part. She knew. She felt every fold, every break, every compression. Her mouth moved, trying to form words. "Help me. Please. Stop." The hand released her. She lay on the snow, body folded completely in half, knees touching forehead, spine bent like a paperclip. Her skin had stretched thin, translucent, veins visible beneath like ink on rice paper. Her organs had shifted, flattened, pressed against the inside of her skin in dark shapes. She trembled, small, rapid shakes. Her eyes tracked to Marcus, to me, pleading. Then the trembling stopped. Her eyes glazed, pupils dilating, staring at nothing. Tasha Okonkwo, 31 years old, survived 2 tours in Afghanistan, pulled wounded soldiers from burning vehicles, earned a Bronze Star, moved to Montana for the quiet, folded flat in a trench at 11,000 feet. Marcus fell to his knees beside her, pressed his face against her shoulder, and sobbed. Hondo backed against the wall, chest heaving. "We can't stay here." "The storm," I started. "I don't care about the storm." He was shaking, eyes wild. "That thing isn't here with us." He was right. I grabbed my pack, started shoving gear. "We move. Now. Everyone moves." Marcus didn't respond. He was still holding Tasha, whispering prayers I couldn't hear. "Marcus," I said, "we have to go." He looked up, face wet. "She's got a mom in Bozeman. Someone has to tell her." "We will, but first we have to survive." He nodded slowly, like a man waking from a dream. He laid Tasha down gently, closed her eyes with his glove. Then he stood, shouldered his pack, and didn't look back. We tore down the tarp, left the trench, and pushed into the storm. The wind hit us like a fist. Snow came sideways, hard enough to sting through balaclavas. Visibility was nothing, just white chaos and the roar of silence. We roped together, me, then Hondo, then Marcus, 20 feet of line between each. I could barely see Hondo behind me, just the glow of his headlamp, a pale moon in the storm. We climbed. I don't know why we went up instead of down. Instinct, maybe, or the mountain guiding us. Either way, we climbed. The doubled prints appeared in the snow ahead, fresh, sharp, leading higher. "Don't follow them," Marcus shouted from the back. But there was nowhere else to go. The prints were the only trail. Everything else was just storm. So we followed. Step by step, we climbed into the mouth of something that wasn't weather. Chapter 4. The Hanging Grove. We broke through the storm into a pocket of stillness. One moment, wind and chaos. The next, calm, dead air, snowflakes drifting straight down like ash. We stood in a grove of pines, stunted, twisted things, branches black against white sky. The ground was flat, almost level, too level, like it had been smoothed. And in the trees, bodies hung. Dozens of them. All field-dressed, all gutted, all folded. They swayed slightly, though there was no wind. Intestines used as rope, looped over branches, tied in knots that looked almost decorative. Some hung upside down, some right side up. Some bent at angles that made my stomach turn. "Jesus Christ," Marcus breathed. Hondo clutched the rope between us like a lifeline. "How many people has this thing killed?" I didn't answer. I was counting. 12, 15, 20. I stopped at 20 because counting meant seeing, and seeing meant going mad. Some of the bodies were old, mummified by cold. Some were fresh, blood still dripping. All of them had been opened, organs removed, ribs spread like wings. The radio crackled. Multiple voices now, layered, overlapping. "We're close." That was me. Just ahead. That was Hondo. Almost there. That was Marcus. Turn back. That was Tasha, dead in the trench an hour ago. We stood frozen, listening to ourselves speak from the trees. Then the bodies moved. Not swaying, moving. Their mouths opened in unison, dark cavities, and from each came a voice. "Step closer. Step closer." Step closer. The voices were ours, a chorus of echoes, 20 mouths speaking 4 voices. We need to leave, I said. But when I turned around, the way we'd come was gone. Just more trees, more bodies. The grove had closed around us like a fist. Marcus's breathing went ragged. No, 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 no. Stay together, I said, grabbing his arm. Rope stays tight. We find a way through. We moved deeper into the grove, weaving between trunks, trying not to look at the bodies, but they were everywhere, hanging, watching, some so old they were just bones in jackets, some so fresh their eyes still blinked. One of them spoke in my mother's voice. I froze. Lilly-Anne, baby, why don't you come home? My mother had been dead for 6 years. Don't listen, Hondo said, pulling me forward. But the voice followed. You're just like your daddy, always climbing, always running, never knowing when to quit. It's not her, I said, to myself, to the mountain, to whatever was listening. Another body spoke in Hondo's sister's voice. Hondo, I'm cold. I've been cold for so long. Hondo made a sound like breaking. It's not real, I said. I know, but his voice shattered on the words. We pushed forward. The grove seemed endless, trees upon trees, bodies upon bodies. My headlamp beam cut through the dark and found only more horror. Then Marcus stopped. I can't, he whispered. Yes, you can. Just keep moving. No, he was staring at one of the bodies. That's me. I followed his gaze. Hanging from a low branch, maybe 15 feet away, was Marcus Reeve. Same beard, same jacket, same gray eyes staring from a gutted face. It's not you, I said. You're right here. But it will be. He was shaking. That's what it does. It shows you. It shows you what you'll become. The Marcus body opened its mouth, and Marcus's voice, You should have stayed home. Diane's going to raise our daughter alone. Real Marcus dropped to his knees. No, no, I'm going home. I promised. You promised Sarah too, said the body, and now it was Hondo's sister, Sarah's face on Marcus's gutted frame. Promised you'd find me, but you didn't. None of you did. Hondo screamed. He screamed and lunged at the body, knife out, slashing. The blade cut rope. The body fell, hit the snow with a wet crunch. It wasn't Marcus. It wasn't Sarah. It was something thin and dark, folded into their shapes, a shape that unfolded when it hit the ground and scattered like paper in wind. Hondo stood over it, chest heaving. What is it? What the fuck is it? From behind us, an answer. Old. We spun, weapons raising. An old woman stood at the edge of the clearing. She hadn't been there a moment ago, just appeared, like she'd unfolded from the shadows between trees. White hair hung in 2 long braids, threaded with beads and feathers, dark skin, deeply lined, weathered by decades of mountain wind, eyes like flint, sharp, knowing. She wore traditional clothing, elk hide and wool, intricate beadwork covering the shoulders, patterns I didn't recognize but felt ancient. In her right hand, a staff carved with symbols that hurt to look at too long, spirals, creases, folds. She studied us with something between pity and resignation. You shouldn't be here, she said, not in English, in Crow, the Apsaluk language, words flowing like water over stone, but somehow I understood. Every word clear as if she'd spoken in my own tongue. Who are you? I asked, my voice small in the vastness. Someone who knows better than to climb during the folding season. She gestured at the grove with her staff, at the body swaying above. Someone who has seen this before, too many times. The folding season? Hondo's voice cracked. She nodded slowly. When the snow is deep and the sky presses low, when the world grows thin between the living and the pressed, The mountains fold, they crease, they bend, and when they fold, the spaces between grow thin as paper, things slip through, things that were pressed flat long ago, trapped in dimensions we cannot see, waiting for the world to bend enough to let them out. What is it? I asked. What's killing people? It has many names. My grandmother called it Chi Iliaxbaki, the one who folds. Others call it the crease walker, the paper spirit, the thin one. She looked at each of us in turn. It was old when the mountains were young, when stone was soft and sky was close enough to touch, when the world was still learning its shape. How do we stop it? Marcus's voice was desperate. She laughed, bitter, tired, the laugh of someone who'd had this conversation before and knew how it always ended. You don't stop it. You don't fight it. You don't kill something that exists between dimensions. You survive it, if you're lucky, or you don't. Most don't. There has to be a way. There is. She pointed at the ground with her staff. I looked down. The doubled footprints were everywhere, circling the grove, leading deeper into the trees, winding between the hanging bodies. Our own prints, heavy and real. And inside each one, lighter than snow, more perfect than human, the ghost prints. Don't follow. The prints. Each word punctuated, each word a warning given too late. We didn't, I started. But you did. Every step you take in its tracks makes you part of the fold, makes your bones softer, your flesh thinner, makes you easier to press, to flatten, to hang. She looked at us with something like pity. You've been walking in its steps since the first switchback, since you found the runner. You're already half gone, already half folded. Can't you feel it? Marcus touched his chest, his jacket, where his hand pressed. The fabric creased unnaturally, folding inward, holding the shape even after he pulled his hand away. Hondo looked at his hands, held them up to the light. His knuckles bent backward slightly, not broken, not dislocated, just wrong, like the bones had forgotten which way they were supposed to bend. I felt my spine, ran my hand down my back, between my shoulder blades, a flatness, a place where the curve should be but wasn't, like someone had ironed me, pressed me partway flat. We were changing, becoming thin. How do we get out? My voice was steady, but only through force of will. The old woman shook her head, snow caught in her braids, melting against the beadwork. Only one way out now. Can't go back. Can't go down. Trail behind you is already folded shut. You'd walk in circles forever, leaving prints for it to follow, until you're too thin to walk at all. Only one direction left. She pointed deeper into the grove, toward the hanging bodies, toward the darkness beyond. Through to what? I asked, though part of me already knew. To what's waiting? She met my eyes, held my gaze. To what's been folding these mountains since before your people came, since before my people came, since the world was young and soft and learning how to hold its shape, to the heart of the crease, to the source. What happens if we go through? Maybe you face it, maybe you fold, maybe you find the center and learn how to unfold yourself. She shrugged. Maybe you become like me, walking the edges, warning others. Watching them not listen, watching them fold anyway. You survived it, Hondo said. You went through. Once. Her voice went distant. 63 years ago, I was young, foolish, climbed in winter because I thought I was strong enough, thought the old stories were just stories. I learned different, lost my brother, lost my cousin, lost everyone but myself, and I only survived because I walked backward, retraced every step, unfolded what had been folded. It took me 3 days to get down, 3 days of walking backward through a storm that never ended. She turned and started walking toward the trees. Wait, I called after her. How do we walk backward? How do we unfold? She paused, looked over her shoulder. Same way you folded, one step at a time, but you have to want it more than the mountain wants to keep you. have to remember your shape harder than it forgets. And you have to do it before you're too thin, before you're pressed so flat you can't remember which way is up. Then she walked into the trees, her footprints doubling as I watched, a lighter print inside each step. Even she couldn't fully escape it. Even she was marked. "We go through," I said. "Are you insane?" Marcus stared at me like I'd suggested we fly. "You heard her. Everyone who goes through gets folded. We're already folding. Look at us." I held up my hand, the fingers bent wrong, the knuckles creased. "We can try to run and fold anyway, or we can go through and maybe find the center, find the source, and stop this. Or die trying," Tasha said quietly. "Or die trying," I agreed. Hondo's voice was hollow, empty, like he'd already given up. "Then we face it." Marcus looked at both of us, at the body swaying above, at his own face staring down from one of the gutted frames. Paul Vickers had Marcus's eyes now, Marcus's beard. Like the thing had been practicing, learning his shape. He touched his daughter's birthday card in his chest pocket. Purple unicorn, love you to the mountains and back. "Okay," he said finally, voice breaking. "Okay, we go through." We tightened the rope between us, 3 souls bound together, and we walked deeper into the grove, toward whatever was waiting, toward what folds the mountains, toward the crease at the heart of the world. Chapter 5. The Crease. The grove ended at a cliff. Sheer drop, thousands of feet, into a valley so deep the bottom was just shadow, but that wasn't what stopped us. At the cliff's edge, the world folded. I don't know how else to describe it. The air bent, space creased. I could see through the fold to the other side, where the mountain continued, but between here and there was a thickness, a depth, like looking at paper edge on and seeing all the layers compressed. And in that crease, something moved. Thin, dark, shifting between dimensions we don't have words for. It turned its knot face toward us. Recognition bloomed, cold and certain. This was what had been following us, what had been stepping in our tracks, what had learned our voices and our shapes and our names. The radio crackled, all our voices at once, harmonized. "Welcome." Marcus raised his rifle. "Stay back." The thing tilted, a motion that hurt to watch, and suddenly it was closer without having crossed the distance. It didn't walk, it unfolded. Hondo fired his pistol. The bullet passed through the crease and came out sideways, tumbling, hitting a tree behind us. I grabbed his arm. "It's not in our space, it's between." "Then how do we kill it?" "We don't." The thing spoke, not through the radio now, through the air itself, through the snow, through the mountain. It spoke in creases and folds, and somehow we understood. "You walk my steps, you breathe my breath, you are almost folded, almost flat, almost mine. We're not yours," I said. "But you are. You followed, you climbed. You did not turn back when you saw the first print. Now you are part of the pattern, part of the fold." Marcus's voice shook. "What are you?" "I am what remains when the world is pressed. I am the space between pages. I am the crease in the mountain. I am what waits in the thin places." The old woman said. "The old woman knows. She has seen others like you, climbers, searchers, runners, all looking for something in the heights, all finding me instead." Hondo stepped forward, rifle raised. "You killed my sister." I folded her. She walks with me now, thin, light, forever part of the mountain. "No," Hondo's voice broke. "No, she's gone. She's dead." Death is a kind of folding, but I fold deeper. I fold until there is no difference between being and not being, between mountain and flesh, between step and echo. It moved closer, and Marcus screamed. His spine bent, not broke, bent, like someone pressing a ruler too hard. his back arched, vertebrae shifting, compressing, discs bulging, then rupturing, fluid leaking into surrounding tissue. He dropped to his knees, hands clawing at his chest. No, 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 no. His sternum cracked, a single wet snap, then his ribs started folding inward, one by one, curving toward his spine like fingers closing into a fist, each break distinct. Sharp reports, like snapping pencils. His chest compressed, lungs deflating, heart squeezed between collapsing bone, blood vessels burst, pressure waves pulsing through arteries. I grabbed him, tried to pull him straight, but he was folding from the inside out. His organs shifted, intestines coiling tighter, stomach compressing, liver flattening against kidneys. "Stop," I screamed at the thing. "Stop it." He is already mine. He walked my steps. He breathed my air. Now he becomes part of the pattern. Marcus looked up at me. Blood leaked from his eyes, black and thick, running down his cheeks in twin streams. The capillaries in his sclera had burst, turning the whites a deep crimson. But worse was what I saw in those eyes. Awareness, understanding. He knew exactly what was happening. Lily. His voice was wet, gurgling, blood in his throat, in his lungs. "Run, please. I'm not leaving." "Diane," he choked on her name, on blood. Tell her Daddy tried." His spine cracked again, louder this time, vertebrae snapping in sequence. 12, T, 11, 10, his torso folding forward, chest meeting thighs. His hip joints dislocated, both at once. Pop, pop. His legs bent backward at impossible angles, knees reversing, femurs cracking. His pelvis shattered, a sound like dropping a ceramic plate, fragments of bone pressing through skin, white shards visible through torn fabric. His face stayed calm, almost peaceful, like he'd accepted it, like he was already somewhere else, somewhere with Diane, somewhere away from this. Blood poured from his nose, his ears, his mouth, his teeth cracked, enamel splitting, his jaw dislocated, hanging loose. Then he folded completely, chest to thighs to shins, a shape that shouldn't exist, compressed, flat, organs squeezed into pulp, bones broken into splinters. His skin stretched thin as tissue paper, translucent, showing the dark mess inside. He didn't look human anymore, just a shadow, a flat thing pressed into snow. The wind caught him, pieces of Marcus, pieces that had been Marcus, skin flaking away like ash, bone dust rising, blood crystallizing in the cold. He scattered, drifting into the valley like paper in wind, like he'd never been solid at all. Hondo fired wildly, screaming, unloading his entire magazine into the crease. 15 rounds, each one vanishing into the fold, swallowed by space that shouldn't exist. The thing turned its attention to him. "You want to find your sister? She is here, in me, part of the crease." "Fuck you," Hondo sobbed, ejecting the empty mag, fumbling for another with shaking hands. "I can show you. I can fold you together, brother and sister, pressed into the same space, never apart again." "No." He racked the slide, aimed. Yes. Hondo's left leg bent, not at the knee, mid-thigh, the femur cracked lengthwise, splitting like firewood, muscle tore, skin stretched, then split. Blood sprayed across white snow, arterial spray pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. He collapsed, screaming, a sound that echoed off the peaks, pure agony. I grabbed the rope between us and pulled, dragged him backward, boots sliding in blood-slick snow, away from the cliff, away from the thing. But it followed, unfolding across the snow, moving in that impossible way, closing distance without traveling. Each movement hurt to watch, reality bending around it. Hondo's right leg bent, same place, Mid-femur, the crack echoed. Bone splintering lengthwise, marrow erupting, both legs useless now, folded wrong, feet pointing in directions feet shouldn't point. He writhed in the snow, back arching, fingers clawing tracks. His spine started curving, lower lumbar first, vertebrae compressing, discs rupturing, spinal fluid leaking. Lily, he reached for me, hand outstretched, fingers spread. Don't let it take me like Sarah. I held his hand, squeezed hard. His fingers were cold, so cold. I won't, I swear. But I was lying. I could feel it in my own body now, the flatness spreading, my ribs compressing, my spine bending. We were both folding, both becoming thin. His pelvis cracked, his hips dislocated. His chest began folding forward, sternum bending, ribs curving inward. Tell my mom, blood bubbled on his lips. Tell her I found Sarah. Tell her we're together. His eyes were bleeding now, black rivulets down his cheeks, the same as the runner, the same as Marcus. His torso folded completely, chest to thighs, then his head bent forward, neck vertebrae snapping in sequence, until his forehead touched his knees. He folded flat, compressed, thin as paper. His hand in mine went limp. I was holding a shape, not a person, just pressed flesh and broken bone, a shadow of Hondo Locklear. The thing spoke again, almost gentle. Now they're together, brother and sister, forever part of the fold. The thing spoke again, almost gentle. You cannot fight the crease. You can only become part of it. Accept, fold, be thin. No, I said. You have no choice. You walked my steps. Then I'll walk them backward. I don't know where the thought came from. Desperation, maybe. Or the memory of the old woman's words. Don't follow the prince. I let go of Hondo's hand. I turned around. And I walked backward. Step by step, I retraced our path, walking heel-toe in reverse, feeling for our original tracks beneath the doubled prints. The thing screamed. Not in sound, in shape. The crease rippled, bent, twisted. I kept walking backward, away from the cliff, away from the fold. Behind me, Hondo cried out. I heard his bones breaking, heard him folding, but I didn't turn around, couldn't. If I looked, I'd stop. If I stopped, I'd fold. So I walked, backward through the grove, backward through the storm, backward down the mountain, and the thing couldn't follow, because I wasn't walking its steps anymore. I was walking mine. The doubled prints behind me faded. The light ones vanished first, then the heavy ones grew fainter, until all that remained were my own boot marks, singular, real. The storm broke. Dawn came, pale and cold. I stumbled into the trailhead parking lot as the sun cleared the peaks, orange light spilling across white snow, beautiful, peaceful, wrong. My legs moved on autopilot, left, right, but each step felt strange, lighter than it should, like I weighed less, like parts of me had been left on the mountain. Rescue crews met me there, hands grabbing my shoulders, voices shouting relief, faces I recognized. Jim Patterson, lead coordinator, Sarah Chen, medic, Dave Kowalski, veteran SAR. Jesus, Lilly-Anne, you made it. Where are the others? Where's your team? I tried to speak, tried to say they're gone, they're folded, don't go up there, don't follow the prince. But the words wouldn't come. My tongue felt flat, my throat compressed, like someone had pressed me so thin I couldn't hold breath enough to speak. I opened my mouth, tried again. What came out was Hondo's voice. Step closer, just step closer. They froze. Jim's smile faltered. Lily, he okay? I nodded, tried to smile, felt my face crease wrong, felt my lips bend at angles lips shouldn't bend. Sarah stepped forward, medical kit in hand. "Let me check you out. You're probably hypothermic, disoriented." She reached for my shoulder, her glove pressed against my jacket. The fabric creased inward with a wet crack. Not fabric tearing, bone, my clavicle folding, compressing, ribs beneath bending inward. Sarah jerked her hand back. "What the?" I looked down at my hands, really looked at them for the first time since descending. My fingers were pressed together, palm to fingertips, folded flat. The joints didn't bend right anymore. They creased, like paper, like origami. I lifted my shirt. My ribs showed through skin gone translucent, thin as tissue paper. I could see my organs beneath, heart beating slow, lungs compressed, intestines coiled tight. My spine was visible through my back, vertebrae pressed close, curved at impossible angles. Someone had folded me, creased me, made me thin. But I was still alive, still walking, still breathing, just not entirely human anymore. Jim backed away slowly. "Stay back. Everyone, stay back." But they couldn't, because I was smiling now, calm, serene, like the runner had been, like Marcus, like all of them. "We made it," I said, my voice smooth as folded paper. "We made it down." The radio at my chest hissed, but I'd lost it on the mountain, hadn't I? Or had it become part of me, folded into my chest cavity, pressed against my heart? Hondo's voice crackled from inside my ribs. "Step closer, just step closer." Marcus's voice, it's safe to climb." Tasha's voice, "We found the route, follow us." Dave stepped toward me, reaching. "Lily, let us help." His knee bent backward, clean fold, femur cracking lengthwise. He screamed and fell. Sarah ran to him, her spine curved, vertebrae compressing. She folded forward, chest to thighs, and collapsed into the snow. Jim turned to run, made it 3 steps. His pelvis cracked, his legs bent wrong. He folded and scattered like ash in wind. One by one, the rescue team folded. One by one, they became thin. One by one, they learned to walk in doubled steps. By the time the next team arrived 6 hours later, there was nothing left but shadows pressed into snow, shapes that might have been people once, now just creases in the mountain, thin as paper, waiting. And me, still standing, still smiling. I told them what happened, told them about the creature, about the folding, about how we were all pressed thin by something older than mountains. They didn't believe me, but they saw my hands, my spine, my translucent skin. They saw the doubled footprints leading back up the trail. They saw the bodies hanging in the trees when they went looking. They believed then, but by then it was too late. I'm still walking, still moving through the world, but I'm not really here anymore, not entirely. Part of me is still on the mountain, still pressed flat, still folded. I work nights now, can't stand daylight. Something about the light shows how thin I am, shows the creases. I visit the trailhead sometimes, stand at the base of the Beartooths and look up at the peaks. I can feel it up there, the crease, the fold, the place where the world bends. It's calling me back, telling me to climb, to follow the doubled prints, to finish what was started, to fold completely. I've started leaving tracks again, doubled tracks, one heavy, one light. The light ones are mine now. I'm learning how to step without weight, how to move between spaces, how to fold and unfold at will. I'm becoming like the old woman, walking the edges, warning others, watching them not listen, watching them fold. Last week, a group of climbers went missing at mile marker 12, same place David Chen vanished. I led the search team, found them hanging in the trees, field-dressed, gutted, folded. I felt nothing, no horror, no grief, just recognition. They'd followed the prints, just like we had. Now they're part of the pattern, part of the crease, forever thin, forever waiting. Sometimes, late at night, I hear voices on my radio, even though I don't carry one anymore, even though the radio became part of me, pressed into my chest cavity, embedded in my ribs. Hondo calls to me, "Lily, come back. Sarah and I are waiting." Marcus calls, "Diane misses you. Come see her. Come fold with us." Tasha calls, "It doesn't hurt anymore. It's peaceful. It's quiet. And I want to. God help me, I want to. Because being half-folded is worse than being fully gone, being stuck between dimensions, between shapes, between human and something else. It's agony. I can feel myself thinning more each day, my bones growing lighter, my flesh more translucent, my shape less certain. Soon I'll be thin enough to slip back through, back to the grove, back to the crease, back to where the others are waiting. Folded. Forever. But not yet. Not yet. I still have warnings to give, still have climbers to turn back, still have people to save from the doubled prints. Even if they don't listen. Even if they climb anyway. Even if they follow the tracks into the fold. I'll keep trying, keep warning, keep walking the edges between the living and the pressed. Until the day I'm too thin to walk at all. Until the day the mountain calls me home. The Beartooths aren't generous. They're sharp, thin-aired, and mean. And when you walk their trails, you're never walking alone. You're walking in the steps of everyone who came before, everyone who folded, everyone who became part of the crease. And someday, you'll fold too. We all do, eventually. The mountain makes sure of that. I'm still here, still walking, still breathing. But every night, when I close my eyes, I feel the mountain pressing, ironing me flat, making me thin. And I know, someday soon, I'll be thin enough to slip back through, back to the grove, back to the crease, back to where Hondo and Marcus and Tasha are waiting, where we'll all fold together, where we'll all become one with the mountain, forever pressed, forever thin, forever part of the pattern. The Beartooths are waiting, and I can't stay away much longer. Folklore note. The Crow, Northern Cheyenne, and Shoshone peoples who have lived in and around the Beartooth Mountains for thousands of years have long told stories of the thin places in the high country. These are locations where the barrier between the physical world and the spirit world grows permeable, especially during deep winter when snow blankets the peaks and the sky presses low. In Crow tradition, there are stories of the Bucksbaki, spirits that exist in the spaces between things, between rock and sky, between breath and silence, between life and death. These spirits are described as pressed thin by the weight of the world, flattened into 2 dimensions, existing in creases and folds that human eyes can barely perceive. The Bucksbaki are said to hunger for dimension, for thickness, for the fullness of living flesh. They lure travelers into following their tracks, walking in their steps, slowly teaching the unwary how to fold, how to become thin, how to slip between the layers of reality and join them in their compressed existence. Traditional warnings passed down through generations emphasize the importance of never following unknown tracks in the high country, especially tracks that seem too perfect, too light, as if made by something that weighs nothing at all. Elders speak of the folding moons, periods during the deepest winter when the mountains themselves crease and bend, creating pockets where the Bucksbaki can move more freely between worlds. Rescue workers and backcountry enthusiasts in the Beartooth Range have reported strange phenomena over the years, doubled tracks appearing alongside their own, radios transmitting voices of team members who haven't spoken, bodies found in impossible positions, folded in ways that shouldn't be survivable, yet showing no signs of external trauma. The Park Service attributes these incidents to hypothermia, avalanches, and the disorienting effects of altitude and extreme weather. But among those who spend their lives in these mountains, Among the guides and the SAR volunteers and the tribal members who still visit the sacred high places, there's a different understanding. The mountains fold, and sometimes what's folded stays folded. The Beartooth Plateau, at over 10,000 feet elevation, contains some of the most remote and unforgiving terrain in the lower 48. It is a place where weather can turn deadly in minutes, where temperatures plummet 60 degrees overnight, where the thin air and endless white can break even experienced mountaineers. It is also a place where, according to traditional knowledge, the world remembers how to bend. Several disappearances in the range over the past 50 years remain unsolved. Search and rescue teams have found personal effects, equipment, even campsites, but no bodies. Or rather, they found things that might have been bodies once, pressed so flat into the snow that they're mistaken for shadows, for stains, for tricks of the light. The Crow Nation maintains that certain peaks in the Beartooths should not be climbed during the deep winter months. These peaks are marked on no official map, but every tribal member who hunts or travels in the high country knows them by sight, by feel, by the way the air bends around them. They are the folding places. The places where the Boxpake wait, patient, thin, forever part of the crease. If you climb in the Beartooths during winter, elders say, watch your tracks, watch them carefully. If you see a second set of prints appearing inside your own, lighter than yours, more perfect than yours, do not continue forward. Turn around. Walk backward if you must. Retrace your steps exactly, boot print by boot print, until you return to where the doubling began. And pray you haven't walked too far. Pray you haven't taught the Boxpake too much about your shape, your weight, your particular way of bending. Because once it learns you completely, once it can match your every step, your every breath, your every fold, you become part of it. You become thin. You become pressed. You become one more shadow hanging in the trees, waiting for the next climber to follow your tracks. The Beartooths aren't generous. They never have been. They've been folding people for thousands of years, and they're not done yet. Well, boys and ghouls, that wraps up another terrorific tale from the vault. I'd say stay flat, but in the Beartooths, that's exactly what you don't want to do. Poor Lilly-Anne learned that the hard way. Walked backward down that mountain trying to unfold herself, but some creases don't iron out, some folds are permanent. And now she's just another thin thing waiting in the heights, teaching the next climbers how to bend. If this story crawled under your skin the right way, hit that subscribe button. New creature features drop every day, and trust me, tomorrow's even nastier. Leave a like if you'll never look at doubled footprints the same way again, and drop a comment. Where are you watching from? What cryptid haunts your neck of the woods? Have you ever seen tracks that shouldn't exist? Ever heard your own voice when you know you didn't speak? I'm always hunting for the next nightmare. Maybe yours is next. Remember, when you're climbing in winter, when the snow is deep and the sky presses low, watch your tracks, watch them carefully. If you see a second set of prints appearing inside your own, lighter than yours, more perfect than yours, turn around, walk backward if you must, retrace every step, because the mountains fold. And once you're folded, you stay folded. Until next time, kiddies, keep your fires burning and your eyes on the trees. This has been Late Night Creature Feature. I'm Mr. Wendigo, and the mountains are always watching.